Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the future of the water and wastewater industry and the careers you didn't know about. I'm your host, Dave Kosminski, and we are live here at the lovely Ocean's Edge Resort in lovely Cape Cod for our CWWA annual conference. And with me on this episode is an old friend of mine. I've been working in the industry many, many years, Mr. John Herlihy. Hi, John.
Hey, Dave. Good morning.
How are you? Thanks for sitting down and sharing your views.
Thank you. It's always great to be at the section conference and in Cape Cod.
Ah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Well, John, you've been a past chair. You're a Fuller Award winner. You've been around. You've been retired now. Well, semi-retired.
Semi-retired. I'm doing consulting.
Okay, and had many, many years in you're with Aquarion.
Well, my whole career with Aquarion.
And so, tell us how you got into the water industry. Tell us.
I got into the water industry for several reasons. I grew up in upstate New York. I was always out in the back and with my head in the water, looking at things crawling around, and that led me to study in biology in college.
Okay.
And when I came out of college, the Safe Drinking Water Act had just been enacted by Congress, and a lot of regulations started coming out of EPA for that, and so there was a need for people trained in biology and chemistry to come into the water industry.
Nice. Now, did you have, when you got out of high school, did you have any idea what direction you were going to head in?
No. Well, I knew it would be science.
Okay.
But specifically, no, not career-wise.
Okay.
Nope.
In my experiences, with doing a lot of the courses that I teach and so forth, students getting out of high school and even students that are in their first year of college, they still haven't decided on a career opportunity or what they want to do for a living.
Right. And what was helpful to me is, I attended Fairfield University, and the Bridgeport Hydraulic Company, the forerunner of Aquarion,
BHC,
was looking to staff up, and they needed people that could do the bacteria testing for them. And
okay.
I had been doing research in college and knew the bacteria methods, so I was ready to go.
There you go. And what year was that?
That was I graduated in 72, and I came to work in 73.
There you go. So not much moss growing under your feet on that one. So now, obviously BHC has transitioned into Aquarion. Now I think Aquarion is now owned by Eversource, correct?
That's correct.
So how has that affected the industry?
So that happened just before I left. Aquarion had been owned was originally, a stock company, and then was sold a couple times. We had an English owner, Kelda, and we had a Australian owner, Macquarie, and now, U.S. Northeast owner, Eversource. And, the benefit to that is that it gives you greater financial resources. And Aquarion, used that to help purchase additional water systems.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and I think, just so the viewers know that the basic types of water systems in the state obviously are the investor-owned, which Aquarion is one, and we have all the quasi-publics, which are basically like MDC and Regional Water Authority, and then you have the small municipal guys like me.
Yeah.
So that are having trouble keeping up with all of the unfunded mandates, regulations coming across. So tell us how the industry has changed since as you've transitioned through your career and now into consulting. What do you see as the top issues?
Well, so with my degree in biology, I came to work in the laboratory, and most of my my entire career has been in water quality management.
Okay.
And then I also took on responsibility for environmental management and for government relations.
Okay.
So in terms of how the industry has changed, of course, there have been so many drinking water quality regulations that have come down the road. Also environmental quality relations, so discharges from water treatment plants and office buildings and the like. And, the construction we do out in the street, all kinds of environmental regulations. And then in order to get the funding to replace all the infrastructure that's involved in running a water utility, treatment plants, dams, pumping stations, well, you know,
Yeah.
pipelines.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there's work that needs to be done in Congress. You and I used to attend the fly-ins together.
And Washington, yes.
And, you know, we had to have a voice in Washington. So one of the ways is the increased regulations. That leads to increased costs. You got to get funding. And Congress is a place that we can get funding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, you know, it's become a lot more complex and a lot broader.
Yeah.
And getting involved in the political arena is very important for the industry so that our voice is heard at the national level.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things that is, I don't want to say sorely underestimated, but people don't realize the value of being able to network. And this conference is, you know, prime example of that, getting to know people that are in the industry, you know, to shake their hand, to look them in the eye and so forth, because you never know when you're going to need somebody that, hey, I have this problem, can you help me? And, you know, the same thing in Washington. You know, if you know people in Washington that can, you know, get the wheels turning, it helps tremendously.
That's right. That's right. And, you know, like I said, I came out with a science degree and went into the laboratory. And in the laboratory, you know, you're working with equipment and chemicals, you know, that type of thing. You're not really working with a lot of other people.
Right.
Right? So it was really career expanding to me, developing new skills by being in the water industry and being on committees and networking with people. That's not something you really do when you're working in the laboratory.
Sure, yes.
But, you know, as you grow, take on more responsibility, and go into management, it becomes very, very important that you're able to connect with people.
Absolutely.
You need to be able to relate to people, understand how people work, but also in order to solve problems, whether they're technical problems like water quality or environmental, or people management problems.
Yeah.
You can get all of that knowledge by being involved in AWWA.
Absolutely.
And meeting fantastic other people. You and I have developed a relationship. We've discovered other things we have in common, like music.
Yes, we're going to talk about that. So, you know, speaking of AWWA, you've had the pleasure of being a national director. So tell us how that came into play.
So there, I expanded my purview from, you know, pretty much Connecticut, New England associates to nationwide and international. Guys from Canada, Mexico are on the national board, and there you're dealing with the industry issues at the national level. And you know, so while I was on the national board, the pandemic hit.
Yes.
And, you know, we lost our several big revenue streams like in-person conferences and publications. And, you know, seeing how a large national organization with 50,000 members has to be resilient and be able to react, respond quickly and effectively. And you do that by having a diversity of backgrounds, by having this national board, and officers, you know, the leadership, everybody working together to respond effectively to the pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. And the pandemic did, I think it caused a reset in a lot of industries. I know it affected me in the music industry, obviously at the my music store level, as far as, you know, not being able to, you know, do in-person lessons and all that kind of stuff. So that was devastating. So, but to go from there, you know, obviously from a regulatory standpoint, AWW is involved tremendously in, you know, shaping the landscape of a lot of the regulations that are coming out and so forth. And I think one of the biggest, a couple that are, you know, if we want to call them the elephant in the room, obviously is PFAS and the lead service line. So tell us a little about that.
Well, you know, lead has been regulated for a long time, and there have been multiple successive lead regulations, you know, trying to get the lead levels that can occur in drinking water down lower and lower and lower. So the most recent version of the lead regs, the lead and copper rule revisions, is really all about getting lead service lines out of the water conveyance system. So unfortunately, in the early 1900s, it was pretty common to use lead pipes to connect the iron water mains in the street to the facility plumbing.
Yeah, a.k.a. the lead goosenecks.
Yeah, lead goosenecks, and in some cases, lead pipe, running 50 feet of lead pipe rather than a 4-foot gooseneck. So, there's over the years that I've been involved, so like 73 to 2023, 50 years, there's been, more health effects research done and come into the conclusion that we really need to get the lead out of the drinking water system. So, the regs, the new reg is effectively accomplishing that. So if you exceed the level that EPA has set, now you have to take your service lines out of the ground. And the next reg that's coming, there's already going to be another lead reg that EPA is working on now, and we're going to find out about that next year in 2024. It's likely that they will require that all the lead lines be removed, even if you're in compliance with the EPA limit.
Right.
So
right.
that's really what that's all about, and also educating people, informing people, about the dangers of lead and how to minimize lead levels. Because lead solder is another thing that's very important.
Lead solder, a lot of old houses, lead paint.
Yeah.
And so forth, that to get it in there. And, the other thing now, I think the biggest thing as far as in relation to the regulation is I think utilities are required to do their lead service line inventory. So which is going to be primarily identifying, where those lead services are.
Right. So that'll tell you where you have lead lines, so that if and when you have to take them out, you'll be able to locate them quickly and go about removing them, from the system.
Yeah, all right. Toggling from there to PFAS, okay, the forever chemical.
Yeah. So that's another unfortunate situation where a chemical that has been in widespread use in commerce, it's been around since the 1940s, lead since the late 1800s, early 1900s, but here we are late in our careers, Dave, and the folks are just figuring out, that the health scientists are just finding out that PFAS is very, very toxic to humans, and we've already been exposed since the 1940s. Teflon and firefighting foam.
Sure.
Scotch Guard,
stain removers, even the dryer sheets that you put in your dryer every day.
And the sheet under the pizza pie in the box. So
yes.
So that stuff gets disposed of, and then it gets into the groundwater, and it can get into the surface water and end up in a drinking water supply. So the EPA has just proposed very, very stringent limits on several PFAS chemicals in the parts per trillion range. When I came into the industry 50 years ago, we were dealing with parts per million.
Yeah.
Then it went to parts per billion for like pesticides and that kind of thing. And now we're going parts per trillion with PFAS. So, a lot of groundwater systems, especially in Connecticut, are going to need to install treatment, and even some surface water systems too. So, but that's one of the things that for me has always kept things interesting in my career, is that there's always a new challenge around the corner.
Yes, there is.
You have to figure out how you're going to comply with the regs, what it's going to cost, et cetera, and then making sure that the water that you're delivering is safe to drink.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, for every action, so to speak, there's a reaction. The cost of mitigating a lot of these contaminants and so forth, it's sometimes can be very costly. And how to mitigate that and, balance that in a utility. Do we raise rates? Are there other methods that we can use to, offset those costs? I mean, a lot of you and I have been down to the AWWA fly-in, so, to get funding for a lot of those issues federally through Congress is so important.
Absolutely. And EPA did provide significant amount of funding in the bill funding last year for PFAS removal. Most of it was for lead, but
Yeah.
they did recognize that PFAS is a challenge. It's, you know, it's seed money. It's a little bit to get the ball rolling, but
Right.
a lot more money will need to be invested in treatment to remove PFAS from drinking water.
Yeah, I think most utilities are just, starting to test for PFAS, and some are finding it, some are not. So it's depending on where your source water supply is from, whether it be, groundwater, whether it be surface water. But it's out there. It definitely is.
Definitely.
So again, going over to the personal side, what do you do for pleasure and excitement?
Well,
I know we have interest in music, so
yeah,
do tell.
One of the things I do is I sing in a choir, and that's great fun. And I've always loved music, and I have good friends that are in the music industry, and that backing up several star performers in country music, for example.
Yes, you played me that video. Yes.
Yeah. So a friend of mine that I graduated high school with. His career has been in the music industry, country music.
Yeah.
And he's been with Ricky Van Shelton, and he's currently doing a lot of work with Winona. And in fact, I saw them. They were on tour, and they came to Bridgeport.
Nice.
Played at the arena, and
I hear that's a
went.
great event. Is that the old ballpark that in Bridgeport?
Well, so they have two. So the arena is the indoor, where hockey arena, basketball arena, and music.
Okay.
Right, for the wintertime.
Okay.
And then in the summertime, the ballpark, the former ballpark, is an open air music arena. Yeah, it's
what
terrific.
was the team that played there? The Bridgeport.
The Bluefish.
The Bluefish. There you
Yeah.
go. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, that was great fun. You could go to the ballpark for a very reasonable price compared to New York or Boston.
Correct. There's another. I don't know if you're familiar with the Westfield Music Bowl, which is down in New Haven, right across from the Yale Bowl. But that used to be the old Pilot Pen arena. And I tell you, I've been to, quite a few concerts there, and there isn't a bad seat in the house. The sound is phenomenal, and it's a great venue. It really is.
I haven't been there yet. I've told you a couple times, in the town I live in Fairfield, we have Stage One Theater Company.
Okay.
And I've seen a lot of acts there. So NRBQ we were talking about before.
Big
they come
Al.
through. They always have music acts going on there. And I've really, it's an intimate environment, maybe 200 people.
Yeah.
And, room full of blues, and
there you go.
all kinds of guys coming through there.
There you go. Have obviously, you've been to Toads in New Haven?
Oh, yeah.
Classic. Classic.
Yeah.
You're never, and it's amazing that venue has been able to adapt itself. And to survive. It's from people that play. I mean, the Stones have played there, the Beatles have played. I mean, you name it. But they've also, obviously with Yale being in New Haven and so forth, the student population swells, and then they've been able to, adapt to that clientele and make things. They have raves, they have, all kinds of stuff that's happening there.
Well, that's what longevity is all about, is resilience and adaptability, right? Because
Exactly.
the world keeps changing.
Absolutely.
That's going to happen. So just like with NRBQ, all the different lineups they've been through over 50 years.
Yes. And they're still going, I mean, obviously we've got some departed members, but, Big Al is still around. He's still performing, which is good. But like anything else, industries change, and we have to adapt to that, as we do in the water industry. You know, the thing is, what concert do you remember that kind of really changed you?
Well, the first time I saw Jimi Hendrix, that was it.
There you go. Now, where did you see him?
Down in Washington, D.C. at the Meriwether Post Pavilion.
So
I went to high school down in Maryland.
Oh, okay.
And so that was a concert venue that we would go to. But, I can remember the day that I heard Purple Haze on the radio for the first time.
Nice.
And then going to see Hendrix. You know, a concert that I like to go to these days up at Tanglewood in the Berkshires.
Yep.
James Taylor plays a concert 4th of July, and it's a benefit concert.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, they have the shed there now with the video screens, but they also have the lawn, and you know, we can picnic on the lawn. And he comes on, and he does such a wonderful show.
Yeah.
And all the music that, you know, he has produced over the years.
You know, his collaboration with Carole King, and you know, it's just been phenomenal. And it's, you know, I call it, you know, some people make the term comfort food. Well, that's comfort music. I mean, and ironically, you know, he hasn't written a whole lot of new music, but it's like, it's resilient. You know?
It's wonderful, and you know, I last year I saw Van Morrison there at Tanglewood. Yeah, and what a great band he's got with him, and then Ringo and his All-Star band also at Tanglewood.
Yes.
And so, and it, you know, it's just a beautiful area. Go up there for a couple days. Yeah. Listen to the music.
Exactly.
And, you know.
So if you got stuck on a desert island, okay, what would your desert island album be?
Oh, I think it would have to be Joni Mitchell, For the Roses.
Okay.
I love all her stuff. Also the more jazzy, you know, work she did, Court and Spark, and you know those albums.
Nice.
She had Jocko on bass.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So that many of the Van Morrison albums, James Taylor, I think those are my 3 favorites.
Okay,
right there.
Fantastic. Okay, next question. Okay, what we stuck on? What food could you eat every day? Desert island food.
Shrimp scampi.
Oh, okay. I like it. I like it. You know, there's a little breakfast place in Portland called Malili's, and one of the things I go in and order, I usually go in and order every morning, is 2 eggs over easy with wheat toast. So every time I go in there, I says, "How's the shrimp scampi today?"
Yeah.
And the waitress Lily always laughs. So every time I go in, I says, "I'll have my shrimp scampi." She
there
comes
you
out
go.
with the 2 eggs, and, wheat toast, and so forth. So anyway, all right, John, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. I'm glad you're able to come to the conference and to see her with your lovely wife. And again, it's been a pleasure, you know, being able to work with you over the years, and you know, a lot of the water boot camps that we did down in Aquarion, and you know, as you know, the water umbrella is a very large umbrella. You know, we have everything from lab technicians to construction to HR to accountants to operators. So we want to make sure that we get this out there and let students know of prospective careers within the water industry. They're secure careers, they're well-paying careers, and the water careers, and I say every time, it's not a job that you can outsource. You need boots on the ground.
Right, and you know, when we did the boot camps in Bridgeport, it was a real eye-opener to me that there were kids only a couple blocks away from Aquarion's operations center.
Yes.
That had no idea that the water industry had jobs available, jobs that they could access.
Yes.
And like you said, so many different types of careers in the water industry available. And you know, I've been in the water industry 50 years. It has served me very well. I hope I've served the industry well. But, you know, I was able to buy a house, buy cars, raise my family, send them to college.
Yeah,
right?
There you go.
And the water industry is just a great place to spend your career. It's challenging. You meet a lot of great people. You form lifelong relationships.
Yes.
It's a great place to be. And the doors are open, kids. You know, the boomers are leaving the stage. Come on in.
Exactly. Remember, going back to the boot camp, remember the student that used to walk there every day?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And show up, and he was there a half hour early before
he
start
would
time.
Run. Like he'd come running up to Lindley Street. Yeah, that was great. And we ended up hiring Nick. You know,
yes.
one of the, remember Nick? Yeah, he was like
yeah.
very outgoing, and he's still with Aquarion.
So, well, you never know. You know what? lighten that spark and, getting people into the industry. So
and he's moving up the ladder. He's doing very well.
Fantastic. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this episode of the the future of the water and wastewater industry and the careers you didn't know about. I'm your host, Dave Kuzminski, and Mr. John Herlihy is in the house. And John, thank you again for being part of the podcast, and good luck, good fortunes, and stay healthy.
Thank you, Dave. Same to you.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.